LCD devices allow the user to upload their company's logo through our FMS software. This allows each company to customize the opening display which the driver will see after powering the device up. Besides your company's logo, you can view quite a lot of information on the opening display screen. We have the firmware version, the machine name, the factory ID, the hour meter for ignition on, and the hour meter for when maintenance is due, the date at which maintenance is due, the Wi-Fi MAC address, and the IP address of the radio in the device. After the operator logs in, there is also quite a lot of information on this display. Besides the driver's name, the speed of the vehicle, and the speed limit, you can also view here the time, the day of the week, the Wi-Fi signal strength, the device set up as a client, which means it transmits data from the device to software after events are generated. There are 4 diagnostic indicators for Wi-Fi, bar graph showing the amount of memory left, the IP address for the radio in this device, and in the top right corner we show the efficiency rating in percentage for this forklift since the shift began. Next to that we show the utilization of this forklift in percentage also since the shift began. To enable the device, you must first wake it up. The device will go to sleep after about 10 minutes of inactivity to save power. To wake it up, you press the red button on the right side for about 2 to 3 seconds, and then the screen will appear. There are 2 ways to log on to the keytroller. One way is with a valid ID code which he enters on the keypad. By far the most common way is by using your company's RFID card. The reader in the device is just under the keypad, and the driver simply presents his card over the keypad and it will be read. If the code or card is valid, the display changes to show the driver's name and he can start the vehicle. If it's invalid, it will show that this operator is not authorized for that vehicle and it will not allow that operator to start the machine. After logging in successfully, if the driver's code or card is due to expire within 30 days, it will show the amount of time until the expiration on the display, warning him of the impending expiration date. Our FMS software will also show the drivers that are nearing expiration of their card via color codes in the user database. When configured as a gasoline or LPG vehicle, the driver presses start and holds his finger to actuate two relays, enabling both the ignition circuit and powering the starter. When he hears the engine start, he removes his finger from the start button and the starter relay drops out and the engine is running. When configured as a diesel vehicle, the start button will not be enabled immediately. This is designed to give the engine's glow plugs time to warm. After the glow plugs have warmed, the driver presses start, which engages both the ignition and starter circuit and starts the engine. When configured as a CAN bus type vehicle like the Hyster Fortis or the Yale Veraciter series, the driver presses the start button. However, he is not starting the engine here, but rather enabling power to the existing Hall effect ignition key switch. This key switch now has power and the engine is started and stopped by the ignition key. Typically, checklists are set up to be completed by the first operator starting the vehicle after the shift first begins. The keytroller allows for the checklist to be completed for pre-start items like check engine oil, check forks, etc. The logged-in operator checks these items on the display before he starts the vehicle. After completing the pre-start checklist, the display will prompt the operator to start the vehicle, which he will do by pressing the start button. Now that the vehicle is started, the operator has power, which he needs to check the post-start checklist items like checking brakes, check hydraulic lift, checking gauges, etc. Some checklist items like brakes, for example, can be configured as a critical or a flagged item in FMS software. You do not, for example, want a driver operating a machine with bad brakes. After failing a critical item, the driver will be prompted on the display that if he is sure he wants to fail this item, then the vehicle will be shut down and a supervisor or mechanic must re-enable the keytroller and then take the vehicle back for repairs or clear it for usage. When a non-critical item like brake light, for example, is failed, the driver will again be prompted on the display to confirm the failed item. If he confirms the failed item, it will be saved as a failed event. However, it will not shut down the vehicle. The FMS software can then send out any failed checklist item immediately to anyone on the email received list. Keytroller devices have external auxiliary inputs that can be connected to monitor things like seatbelt usage. If the driver does not buckle his seatbelt, a seatbelt icon will show on the display and the device will begin to count down. It will shut down the ignition in the time period you have set in FMS software if the buckle is not reconnected. When an auxiliary input is connected to a dash light for low oil pressure or high engine temperature warning, An icon will show on the display just like the seatbelt example, and the device will time down and shut down the ignition in the setting you have set in FMS software. This will protect your engine from catastrophic failure and at the same time warn the operator. A supervisor or mechanic can access a different checklist routine of customized items for locking out a machine. This is typically used when a keytroller is used for controlling access and monitoring a production machine in a plant, and a lockout-tagout process must be performed and logged. A supervisor or mechanic can log in and access the menu to lock out a machine to common operators. When another mechanic or supervisor logs in and again can access the lockout via the menu, they can unlock the operators who are now free to again use this machine. When there is an abusive impact above the sensitivity threshold settings you have set, the device will set off an external flashing siren alarm, record both the intensity and the direction of the impact, and if programmed to, shut the vehicle down in a time period in seconds that you have programmed. Automatic emails of the impact event will also be set out immediately. After an abusive impact shutdown occurs, the device can only be re-enabled by a supervisor who would then discuss the incident with the operator. The log will show which supervisor re-enabled the vehicle. When connected to a speed sensor, the keytroller will display speeds in either miles per hour or kilometers per hour in 0.1 increments. The programmer can also set a top speed limit and a grace period in seconds. When the vehicle speeds above the set limit, the device beeps and flashes, warning the operator to slow. If the vehicle does not slow down and exceeds the grace period setting in seconds, the device will sound the flashing siren alarm, the speeding event and duration is recorded in the log, and automatic emails can be sent. Text messages can be sent from the FMS software to individual vehicles, or they can be broadcast to your entire fleet. The text message is received with 4 short responses put in by the sender. The operator presses one of these short responses, and both the message and the response is recorded in FMS software. The 911 emergency feature must be enabled in the device by the programmer. When 911 is enabled, the vehicle will start by anyone using the 911 emergency code and run for only 3 minutes, running the whole time with the external flashing siren sounding. A supervisor or programmer can go into the menu on the display to view recent events in that vehicle. These events are recorded chronologically from the newest to the oldest. So if a driver abandoned that vehicle somewhere, a supervisor could go into the menu and see which driver left the vehicle and at what time. A programmer can access all of the settings, the drivers, and checklist items in that vehicle by reviewing them in the device's menu. Changes can be made here by the programmer, but changes are more commonly done via FMS software wireless connection to the device. Settings for new operators for a complete class of vehicles can be set up easily by making only one change to one vehicle in the class or subclass, hitting one button, and sending them out to all of the vehicles. A supervisor or mechanic can log on to the device and access the menu to view both ignition on hour meter usage and loaded versus unloaded hour meter readings. And efficiency is shown as a percentage comparing both. So for example, if the vehicle was running for 6 hours since the shift began and the forklift was loaded for 4 of these hours, the efficiency rating would show 66%. Just like efficiency, a supervisor or mechanic can log on to the device and access the menu to view this machine's utilization during that shift. For example, if the shift started 4 hours ago and the forklift ignition was on for 3 of those hours, utilization would be 75%. A supervisor or mechanic can be given limited access to the menu for just turning off the alarm, locking out the vehicle, viewing the event log, or scheduling maintenance. This leaves only the programmer the ability to view and change device settings for that machine. The settings on your keytroller are typically configured wirelessly via your keytroller FMS PC software. However, a programmer can access and view all the settings of the device in the menu. As you can see, the programmer can scroll through all of the different settings, and when the appropriate heading is found, he clicks on that heading where the setting for that machine can be viewed and even modified right there. So take a moment and watch all of the actual settings of this very advanced device. At the end of the menu is the advanced settings. This is where the user will set up the Wi-Fi on each device. The programmer will input here the forklift name, the SSID, the encryption method, the password, and the IP address, which will allow the device to communicate to the user's Wi-Fi network. A programmer or supervisor can enter the menu and view recent events for this device, which will be held in chronological order from the newest to the oldest. So, if for example an operator abandoned a forklift, the programmer or supervisor can view the log and see who the operator was and when the vehicle shut down. And then give it about 3 or 4 seconds and hit the seat switch.
It's 37 logging out with seat switch.
When driving a CAN bus type Fortis or Veraciter forklift, the operator will shut off the ignition with the key, and then either the seat belt or the seat switch connection will log out the keytroller. That's it for the video introduction to the keytroller LCD601. If you have technical questions, please call our customer support department at area code 813-877-4500 at extension 221 or 231.